it's very hard work, and I'm not always thrilled about the work that I have to go through. But in the end, I would not give it up. If I stopped, I would regret it right away. Definitely.
Hey friend, welcome to my channel, Creen Allude, and I'm Creen Allude. Please be sure to subscribe. Now let's get into this video. Today we are talking about the iconic Yasmeen Ghauri. Born in Montreal, Canada, to a German mother and Pakistani father, Yasmeen was discovered at age 17 while working at McDonald's, y'all. Talk about lucky. At a time when few minority women were active, Ghauri became the face of Chanel, Christian Dior, Valentino, Versace, Hermes, and other brands. Her beauty and walk commanded attention to every runway. Yasmeen was the total package. Along with being a household name for Victoria's Secret, a fixture for celebrated fashion magazines like Elle and Vogue, and wowing designers, Yasmeen was most cherished for her consummate professionalism, passion for the job, down-to-earth attitude, and an infectious humanity that enamored so many. Faith Kate had this to say: "She really has so much substance behind her beauty, and I think a lot of Yasmeen's beauty comes from the inside as opposed from the outside." Giovanni Bernardi had this to say: "Normally, when we find girls, there's so much we have to do with them. We have to develop them, we have to change them, we have to cut their hair. There's so much we have to start with. There was absolutely nothing we had to change about Yasmeen."
Normally, when we find girls, there's so much that we have to do with. We have to develop them, we have to change them, we have to cut their hair. There's so much we have to start with. There was absolutely nothing we had to change about Yasmeen.
Fun facts before we get into her childhood and just why she left the industry and gave it all away when it was so promising. For those of you who don't know, Yasmeen is 5'11". Her hobbies include traveling and dancing. Her favorite color is black and brown, and her favorite food is pasta. Her favorite places to visit are Switzerland and Pakistan. Also a fun fact, she would literally find the light wherever that may be and beat her face herself. Tyra Banks said she got her makeup tips from Yasmeen. It's all about finding the light. She doesn't diet or work out. She has never had an entourage nor a rock star boyfriend, and she hates cigarettes. In my opinion, Naomi Campbell and Yasmeen has two of the most beautiful, graceful walk the runway has ever seen. They are my top two. It just comes natural for her, and she does say that she prefers the runway also. She loves walking on the runway, and you can just tell. Now let's get into her childhood. Born March 23rd, 1971, Ghauri was born and raised Muslim in Quebec or Montreal, North Canada. There's always some sites that says Quebec and some that says Montreal. She had a difficult childhood and was bullied by her classmates at school for her Pakistani heritage.
In school, this is grade 2. Racism was kind of a problem in school. And then on top of it, religion is also quite a heavy thing. And no one else was Muslim in my school. And then the pictures stopped, because then I refused to pose for photographs. And then my modeling career. People used to call me, chocolate cake phase.
That attitude was formed early on.
When I was younger, I hated having my picture taken. I think probably by the time I turned 12 or 13, there's no more pictures of me in the family album. All models were always the tallest in the class, skinny, ugly. I didn't have a date to the prom, all of the above.
She went with her parents for the Islamic Hajj pilgrimage to Mecca, Saudi Arabia, when she was 12 years old. The fact that my father was Indian had an influence on my life because I wasn't like the other kids. Most of the kids in my school were white and I had brown skin, so they always used to point that out, and I was kind of like a loner. When I was a kid and these things happened to me, I just kind of took it in and absorbed it quietly, and I just dealt with it. I dealt with it internally, she said. Although Yasmeen described herself as an ugly duckling growing up and abhorred having her pictures taken to the extent she stopped taking pictures around 12 or 13 years old, things would soon start to look up for the future top model to be as the compliments began to flow in her teens. Having been an ugly duckling all through childhood, the first time someone asked me if I was a model, I was very flattered and felt that maybe I wasn't so bad after all. I was in my early teens, she said. And this is why it's important, if you have children that are not like white and foreign and you come in, to be sure to have them around. And it's not like segregation or anything, but when you have someone of color or extra melanin in their skin and they're young and they go to a place that's just predominantly white or not like them, where they're like rare in that environment, it plays heavy on their self-esteem because I can't believe as stunning as she was, she thought she was not stunning at all just because everyone who was around her didn't look like her and she got picked on for it. Those kids couldn't even see her beauty. It's good to have your child in an integrated environment that's more mixed because it's not the kid's fault. Kids don't always understand like what they're saying, you know what I mean? But they definitely let her have it to the point where she couldn't even see her beauty. And I can't even imagine stopping taking pictures, like making the choice to be like, I don't even want to take pictures. That's how she felt she was just such an ugly person when obviously she wasn't.
It was very hard to, be the ugly one in school and be the weird ones.
These days, Yasmeen is considered one of the most beautiful women on the runway.
I'm kind of happy now to, be modeling because if I didn't have this, I think my self-esteem probably would have been a lot lower.
Making a low self-esteem a thing of the past.
The fact that my father was Indian, had an influence on my life. I wasn't like the other kids. Most of the kids in my school were white. I had brown skin. So that was, they always used to point that out. And I was kind of like, a loner. When I was a kid and these things happened to me, I just kind of took it in and absorbed it quietly. And I just dealt with it. People used to call me, chocolate cake face and, kind of hideous things and the usual model problems, skinny, gawky, kind of ugly.
When she was 17, Yasmeen was discovered while working at McDonald's restaurant by Montreal hairdresser and artistic director of Platine Coiffure, Edward Zakaria. Soon after her discovery, there was a shift in mentality within the fashion industry, moving from predominantly Nordic-looking models to more models of color, a trend which Yasmeen helped to aspire.
Meet Canadian-born Yasmeen Ghauri, one of the hottest faces to turn the modeling world upside down. In 1991, the shy Yasmeen was the hottest model on the circuit. Since then, she's also become one of the sexiest Victoria's Secret girls. It was only a fluke that she was discovered.
I had just permed my hair and I had come out of the hair salon and someone stopped me in Montreal and told me I should be a model and sent me to an agency. I'm not an actress. I was always really shy and it was very hard for me to get into this business because you can't be shy at all in this business, but it worked out well.
What she's doing now started when Yasmeen was 17 and still in high school in Montreal. During the next year, she would graduate, quit her job at a McDonald's, and leave Montreal for the runways of Paris and Milan.
Normally, when we find girls, there's so much that we have to do with. We have to develop them, we have to change them, we have to cut their hair. There's so much we have to start with. There was absolutely nothing we had to change about Yasmeen.
It's a title dreamed of by legions of beautiful women, but reserved for a select few. And a supermodel is the last thing Yasmeen Ghauri ever expected to become.
I've always hated the word supermodel, and I prefer not to describe myself. I prefer other people to describe me in whatever terms they'd like, but I don't like to categorize myself. I never in my wildest dreams imagined that I would get this far as I've gotten. I just expected it to happen. I would model for a year or two, make some money, and then go on.
Wooed by designers such as Valentino, Chanel, and Todd Olden. Now, almost a decade later, the Canadian native is one of the highest paid models in the business.
But things weren't easy for Yasmeen. She struggled to find work in an industry at first, hesitant to embrace her look. Being ethnic, like when I started in Montreal, I didn't work. I had like 6 bookings from the time I spent in Canada because no one understood my look. It was too ethnic.
I'm 20 years old. I was born in Canada and I'm half Indian and half German. I don't understand why I'm doing well and I don't know what I look like. I always thought I was white, but now apparently I'm exotic. So I couldn't even describe myself.
Being ethnic, like when I started in Montreal, I didn't really work. Nobody understood my look. It was too ethnic.
Yasmeen credits her perseverance to her solid upbringing. Years later, barriers still exist.
It's still for an ethnic look, it's kind of difficult, like to get a contract, a cosmetic contract.
I mean, if it is, maybe I'm not saying that they don't use minority girls to do some cosmetics, but it's not the impact of like Cindy Crawford.
Yasmeen said. In just a few years and barely 21, a young woman who struggled with her physical appearance, facing racism and discrimination along the way, suddenly was the darling of designers like Karl Lagerfeld, Gianni Versace, Valentino, while commanding thousands of dollars a day, electrifying audiences on the biggest runways and making what was deemed undesirable or too ethnic en vogue for international markets.
When she invented a way to walk Lots of girls try to imitate, but it's not easy because nobody has the legs and the body to do it. Her way to walk, what became the new style of walking on runway.
She's sophisticated, but not too much. She's perfect. She's very young. She has lots of life. And she has this beauty that is really unbelievable.
Not only she knows how to move in those clothes, but she try to understand the clothes. She look at them. She remembers them. She very precise.
Able to command $5,000 or more a day, she's among the current crop of superstar models whose salaries are as fantastic as they look.
I never take it for granted. I really have fun with it. Only my first season where I got really scared doing it because it was something completely new to me. That was the only time I was scared, but now, I love it.
I never in my wildest dreams imagined that I would get this far. As far as I've gotten, I just expected that I would model for a year or two, make some money, then go. Yasmeen's look was bold, refreshing, powerful, yet graceful. She had a quiet confidence, but her body language had electrified a room of strangers. That same body language and elegant rhythmic motion that would beguile and enthrall captive audiences, making Ghauri a must-see on the runways from Paris to Milan, with many trying to imitate her one-of-a-kind strut. She said, "I really like runway a lot. I prefer that actually to pictures because I can really do whatever I want and no one's controlling me, and it's nice to try and hold on an audience. It's a nice feeling if you can make an audience feel in the clothes." Yasmeen lamented a strained relationship with her father because of his strong Muslim faith. Disapproving of a lifestyle of a model, Yasmeen also felt at odds with celebrity and fame, grimacing at the chore of keeping up appearances and the high maintenance of being a supermodel. In an interview with E!, Yasmeen said, "Muslims are not allowed to dance. You are not really supposed to show your skin. You are supposed to be covered and be modest, and all these things are completely opposite of what I'm doing now. It is not nearly as glamorous as people see it as being. There's a lot of travel involved. There's a lot of work involved. You're doing hair and makeup for 3 hours before you even get on the set. That's not so glamorous. People expect a lot of you to behave in a certain way. It's a lot. After a while, you kind of get tired. I felt like I was on a big runway, and I never left the runway. I just kind of kept walking back and forth on it." End quote.
It's very hard work, and I'm not always thrilled about the work that I have to go through, but in the end, I would not give it up. If I stopped, I would regret it right away. Definitely. It's really glamorous to look at, but the work that's involved to get to the glamorous stage is really difficult, and that's not glamorous at all. I really like runway a lot. I prefer that actually to pictures because I can really do whatever I want and no one's controlling me. And it's nice to try and hold an audience. It's a nice feeling. It takes a really good personality. You have to be beautiful. You have to have your own personality, but a lot of it is timing. You just have to be in the right place at the right time.
Not nearly as glamorous as people see it as being. There's a lot of travel involved. There's a lot of work involved. You're doing hair and makeup for 3 hours before you even get on the set.
Sometimes the pressure is too much to handle.
After a while, you kind of get tired of just doing. I felt like I was on one big runway. I never left the runway. People expect a lot of you to behave a certain way. There's a lot.
For Yasmeen, living in a fishbowl is the worst part of being a supermodel.
My father was really not very happy with me modeling. I am putting him in jeopardy of going to hell.
She's one of Victoria's best-kept secrets and a reigning queen of the runway. But behind Yasmeen Ghauri's picture-perfect poise lies a darker side. From a painfully strict religious upbringing to her battles with racism and self-doubt, how did supermodel Yasmeen Ghauri fight her way to the top? But despite being in millions of homes and fantasies, her strict religious upbringing only lets her go so far.
In the show, I don't wear any underwear. And I don't like to wear underwear. I don't like to shoot it, but especially not to be on a runway in underwear.
Living in the shadow of her father, an Islamic cleric, Yasmeen has been forced to make some difficult decisions.
And it's very difficult, and my family is not thrilled. Actually, it's part of the reason also. I have my own reasons, but my father would not be very happy to see me running up and down, the runway in underwear.
In numerous interviews, Yasmeen Ghauri would stress the importance of living a normal life, not letting the environment or fame change who you are as a person, not falling for the trappings of an increasingly material world, staying steadfast to who you are and your better nature. It was these same virtues imparted by her father and his faith that ultimately guided her well in life. She was quoted as saying, "I think that the things my dad taught me, regardless of not going on the path he wanted me to go, still affected me. I think he raised me to be a good person. All of the cliches, respect people and to be a good person, and that is definitely from my religious upbringing." Ghauri enjoyed fame in the early 1990s, and after her first major cover with Elle in January 1991, she was also seen in Elton John's music video for the song Sacrifice, in which she starred opposite Chris Isaak. Soon after, she became the face of both Chanel and Jil Sander. By the end of 1990, Yasmeen appeared on the cover of French Elle in July and December, and in September, she graced the catwalk for Gianni Versace's show in Milan, and by the next month, she was walking for Chanel, Helmut Lang, Jean-Paul Gaultier, and Lanvin in Paris. She became the face of Christian Dior and Anne Klein in 1991. In January, she was photographed with Steven Meisel for the cover of Italian Vogue, and towards the end of the year, she appeared in British and Italian Vogue editorials. Photographer Patrick de Marchelier, who photographed her for the Italian issue, called her his favorite subject. In 1992, Yasmeen landed a contract with Victoria's Secret and became a face of Valentino Couture and Versace. According to a NewYorkMag.com online model profile, Ghauri walked the controversial Gianni Versace bondage show in Milan in February 1992. Yasmeen became the face of Hermès and Lanvin in 1993 and was photographed by Gilles Ben-Simon for Elle. She appeared in the 1995 documentary Unzipped by Isaac Mizrahi and walked the 1996 annual Victoria's Secret fashion show. But it all sadly came to an end. Well, sadly for us, but good for her. It was a surprise to many when Yasmeen in 1997 walked away from it all for family and a life away from fame. When Ghauri stepped out of the Yves Saint Laurent show in 1997 at the last minute, speculations arose that she was retiring. She did indeed retire to start a family with her husband, lawyer Ralph Bernstein. The couple had 2 children, daughter Maya and son Victor. Hopefully, I'm towards the end of my career, and I say hopefully because I want to get on with my life and have children and do other things and experience life. I went from school to work, so I never actually had the opportunity to discover myself, to find out what interests me and what it is that I want to do. So I'm very much looking forward to doing that, to discovering who I am. Although removed from the public eye and fashion industry for more than 2 decades, the lasting image, impact, and iconography of the Yasmeen Ghauri is still felt, perhaps even more today with media and entertainment finally heeding the calls for diverse representation.
I just want to have like an easy, happy life, and to have people always watching you is not comfortable. I would never want to be very, very famous because I couldn't deal with that.
She's not entirely comfortable with her success, making for a source of inner turmoil that began when she was only a child in Montreal.
I'm hopefully towards the end of my career, and I say hopefully because I want to get on with my life and have children and do other things and experience life. So I never actually had the opportunity to discover myself, to find out what interests me and what it is that I want to do. So I'm very much looking forward to doing that. I think like everybody else, I'll get older and saggier and baggier and I'll have to stop modeling. I would really like to know what it is to not be on a plane all the time and to live life like everybody else, to come home and cook and I don't know, take a stroll in the park. Like a lot of times people ask me, for a new girl, do I have advice? Be true to yourself and to remember who you are. Remember where you came from and remember where you're going, because this doesn't last forever. I don't fear fame. I value my life and freedom. I love to do normal things. I want a sense of being normal. I love to read. I like to play backgammon. I like to go blading. I'm learning golf. I love golf. I'm a real nerd. I want to do something that feeds my brain. I just feel like every day this business takes a little bit out of me.
I like that she walked away on her own terms. I always say that every time I do a breakdown documentary for a celebrity where they walked away, like we did Madhuri Dixit. If you have not seen that video, go see it. She's a Bollywood actress who walked away on her own terms and came back also. Such a beautiful story, so level-headed. And I also like that of the Cindy Crawfords also, who kind of still stayed back and maintained their reputation and didn't let everything around them taint them. Yasmeen has also spoken against the industry, the modeling industry, for the image of, you know, the stoner look, the being high all the time, and the super skinny look of the modeling industry that they promoted at that time. She had this to say as one of her quotes: "I also believe glamorizing drugs and fashion is irresponsible and unimaginative. There is so much more to be inspired by than that. The fashion industry should be accountable for the images that they convey to young women out there." End quote. And who knows what she could have seen during her time, you know, and doing a lot of these documentaries for these models. They did a lot. It's a lot. I don't blame people like her, Cindy Crawford, for like maintaining themselves, staying away from all of the extra parties, being a hermit.
I actually usually don't go to stuff very often, to parties, but it is my agency, so I thought it'd be nice to go and see them all, say hi.
It's all part of New York's Fashion Week, and one of the parts Yasmeen likes least. Inside, it's clear her agency appreciates the effort.
She's really private in her life, and you know, she's doing other things that aren't going out, and it's never been part of what she's about.
I never really asked for this. I didn't really want to be a model. I didn't look for it.
A strange dichotomy for a private person living in a very public world.
I don't blame them. They got in there so young, and all the lights was around them, all the glitz and the glam and the drugs and the parties, and, you know, being alone in an apartment with like 6 other gorgeous women, you know, and these men knowing where he stayed. Like, it was a lot. That's a lot. On top of that, feeling so manufactured, like you can't talk away, you can't move away, like everything is so manufactured when you're under these contracts. You don't have your own identity. So some people just don't have the personality for it. They're exhausted. And I'm like, I probably would have done the same thing. Comment below if you do the same thing. Like, you make your money and you're out of there, okay? I get exhausted with crowds anyways. I get exhausted with obligations. I hate to feel obligated to do things. But aside from that, Yasmeen has remained so private and out of the limelight. We barely can find anything on her. You have to really dig to find, like, where is she now? What is she doing now? There are sources that say she's back in Canada with her husband and her 2 children. There's no information on her husband, like what he's doing, his net worth, anything like that. And I love that. I love that. You guys know I love privacy. I'm very happy for her with that. Because this is an updated video, I do want to add a couple more fun facts that you may not have known, and also want to press on a couple issues that I didn't go deep enough. I want to go a little bit deeper with it. We're just speaking about the modeling industry, and Yasmeen Ghauri speaking about, you know, the grunge look that was being popular, where models were getting the reputation of being substance fueled and also being stoners and addicts and etc. and being so small they look emaciated and also looking like, you know, they don't eat, etc. So she was very against that, and she actually thought, it was a direct quote she said from an interview with E, that during her time, models used to have an air of sensuality with them on the runway and had a voluptuous curves, you know. Yes, they were slim and they had nice figures and were tall. There was a look for it, but they also didn't look like, you know, they were about to pass out from hunger at any moment. So she was against that. And then another thing that she was against was young models under the age of 18 getting into the industry. And she spoke about how disgusting that was. And she was just not a fan of that.
I think any younger, they're just not ready to handle the responsibility, the peer pressure, the competition. It's so much that they're not ready for. And I think it's really bad, actually, what they're told. They're kids. I think it's horrendous.
Yasmeen is just one supermodel walking the Paris runways this week who thinks young girls should wait until they're 18. But in the modeling world, not many people are listening.
And 40-year-old fashion designers will still dream of putting 15-year-olds in their ads.
Yasmeen says she has already heard stories circulating through the modeling world about the new Yasmeen coming up through the runway ranks. And the new Yasmeen is only 14.
Yeah, there was this young model that was just 14 that was coming into the industry, and they were already calling her the next Yasmeen. And she was just not a fan of that because she was like 14. You know, it's a very competitive market and it's very sensualized. And of course, one of the criticisms was that these men are like 40 plus, these agents, these designers, the photographers, all the people behind the scenes are ancient men, that take these 14-year-olds or younger, and they, I did a Kate Moss video, if you haven't seen that, where we talk about that as well. And even my Naomi Campbell video, we highlighted that too, and my Kimora Lee Simmons video, where you're very young, and most of these younger models were by themselves when they're traveling or just with an agent, and these 40, 50-year-olds will always put them on the cover in compromising poses, etc. And another thing that Yasmeen Ghauri spoke about as well with the industry was just how you can become famous and blow up in the model industry at the age of 14, but by the time you're 23, 24, 25, you're already a has-been and you're old news and nobody wants to work with you. It's a very short lifespan. And then when you're making that kind of money that quickly, by the time you're like 23, 24, if you didn't have something else, another plan, or you didn't, set yourself up, have a savings, etc., you're basically poor. And that's the case for a lot of 90s models. You never hear from them anymore. They're, working regular jobs and this and they were making hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions of dollars. But when you're that young, you don't really learn how to save your money until, like 27, 28, 30, maybe in your 30s, you learn how to really save your money. So imagine getting that amount of money and not knowing how quickly that will be gone. But also it's a very shallow industry because women at like 20 in their 20s are getting surgery and doing a lot to stay young, lying about their age. A lot of models would lie about their age, do extreme things so their bodies could look petite. And part of being so slim was so that they could look younger than their age. And it's just a very toxic industry in terms of ageism, etc. So she spoke against that a lot. And this was one of the reasons why she wanted to leave the industry and go back to school. She said that all the time, that she just want to go back to school, have different hobbies, and do different things, just live life. One of the reasons that she said that was because she know that this is short-lived. It doesn't last forever. So don't get your head boosted up thinking, she always said that, don't think you're bigger than the program. Well, she didn't say it like that, but she said, hey, don't boost yourself up and think that you're better than what you are, because there will always be someone that comes up that humbles you, that's better looking, that gets paid more, etc. So just remain humble and don't let it get to your head, because it's temporary. And I love that for her, because she was one of the models that was speaking about things in the industry that was at the top publicly as well, when it wasn't that popular to speak against it. And she was one of the people at the top doing that. You have to understand, during that time period, people just wasn't doing that. Now they speak out a little bit more, but they just wasn't doing that. Another thing, in terms of her religion, this is a direct quote from her. She said, my husband is Jewish, my children are Jewish, my father was Muslim and an imam, my mother was Catholic before converting to Islam. I believe in a universal source and my faith is personally oriented, and I don't identify with any major religion, end quote. And she wrote this on an Instagram post, and I can understand why she doesn't want to identify with any major religion, because she came from such a strict religious background where her father was an imam, and she wasn't even allowed to dance.
Yasmeen's career has stirred up controversy in the Montreal Muslim community where she was raised. Perhaps because of that, she seemed to have mixed feelings about her homecoming.
And so I come back and I feel, because I don't have anything here anymore. I don't have I don't have a lot of friends here anymore. So I come here and I feel like a stranger. I do my job and then I go home. And I'd go see a movie, read a book, go jogging. I really try and keep it as a job. We only have one life to live, so we have to make the best of it. So I want to make sure that whatever I do in my future is, the best I can possibly do.
From the beginning, the pressures of family life, including her parents' divorce, threatened to weigh her down.
My parents are German and Pakistani. My father is an imam, which is an Islamic priest.
Then there was her religion.
Muslims are not allowed to dance. You're not really supposed to show your skin. You're supposed to be covered. You're supposed to be modest. All these things are kind of completely the opposite of what I'm doing now. I think the things that my dad taught me, he raised me to, be a good person and to, all of the cliches, respect, people and to be a good person. And that is definitely from my religious upbringing.
Flipping through her old photo album opens painful memories of Yasmeen's strained relationship with her father. Going further back in her past isn't any easier.
I think one of his fears was that There's so many cliches about modeling, about, the sex and the drugs.
Of course, there is such a thing as overexposure.
My father loves when I'm photographed in my underwear. My agent has a funny story about that. When my father went to go meet him for the first time, he said, please make sure that no one tries to take her panties off or else she'll start to cry. And where he got this from, I have no idea.
Despite that tension, Yasmeen has learned to follow her instincts.
I understand that. And right now, maybe it's a trauma because the Muslim community as well did give her a lot of backlash for the ads. There were many times she was on the runway where her chest was exposed, like you could see everything up there. And, of course, in the modeling industry, they called it fashion and art and stuff like that. And imagine now when they would have people that just barely is legal. Can you understand? And they're walking with these outfits as well. And so, of course, the Muslim community wasn't going to go for that because that's very risque. And some ad campaigns she did that was very sensual, as well as some photography that's very sensual, even as being a Victoria's Secret model. Come on. But because she faced a lot of backlash from that and kind of got rejected from that, etc., I could imagine why she's just like, I don't want anything to do with it as well. And there were rumors and reports of former model Yasmeen having an interest in witchcraft, but the name in the search result, when I went to look into this, because I was seeing it on TikTok, and a lot of times you guys want me to include things in the documentaries, and I'm like, you gotta fact check. You can't just say anything on here, especially I. So there's a lot of things, if I don't include it, it's for a reason. It was not about Yasmeen Ghauri, okay? You can go search it. There's someone else called Yasmeen Ghauri and not Yasmeen Ghauri. Now, Yasmeen Ghauri is into witchcraft. It indicates she began studying witchcraft and other spiritual topics to gain control over her life, according to a CBN.com article. However, this is, again, about Yasmeen Ghauri, and there's no information in the search result linking this to the model Yasmeen Ghauri. The most she said about religion was, of course, about her dad, how she grew up, and why she doesn't identify with any major religions. It's just not a thing for her. So we'll leave it at that. She also doesn't speak much about her political views, and we're going to move down to her influence. Yasmeen's influence, especially today, is astronomical in the fashion world, especially for someone who is so low-key. The Pinterest boards, Tumblr, and TikTok edits, and countless videos here on YouTube on her beauty analysis, aesthetics, and more, right? We aren't blind. Also, we see that she was so successful as a model selling the clothes to the audience because of how her figure was the perfect mannequin. In the modeling industry, she was known for having a perfect body, but still remaining humble with it. She was always labeled as the dream girl of the industry. And honestly, in doing a lot of these videos, seeing a lot of models, yeah, her body, what do the young people say, is T? She has a very mannequin-like body where every outfit, every clothes just sits on her perfectly. She really could sell a look.
She has the most perfect body. And she's aware of it, but she doesn't take advantage of it. She doesn't use it in a manner that you'd say other people would.
People have also responded to Yasmeen's sexy poses for Victoria's Secret.
Modeling lingerie is not my favorite thing in the world. It's pretty intimidating being in your underwear.
Being a designer's dream isn't easy, but the grueling pace doesn't keep Yasmeen from exhibiting her trademark professionalism.
She's one of those incredible superstar runway girls that she's like a sketch. She's like a designer's dream. You put her in something, it's always worked. It's always over the top.
Today, she is fabulous. And backstage, her performance doesn't go unnoticed.
This is just all about Yasmeen's body. She's incredible at it.
So she invented a way to walk. Lots of girls try to imitate, but it's not easy because nobody has the legs and the body to do it. Her way to walk, what became a new style of walking on runway.
She's sophisticated, but not too much. She's perfect. She's very young. She has lots of life. And she has this beauty that is really unbelievable.
Not only she knows how to move in those clothes, but she tries to understand the clothes. She look at them. She remembers them. She She's very precise.
And also when it came to face and makeup, she could change it up, hair, and just has a very nice appeal to her. Many are still trying to know how to get her figure in shape and getting beauty secrets from her. And she told people straight up, she does not work out. She did not work out, though she would like to work out as a model. One of the things that kept these women really small too was being on the go a lot, traveling a lot, lack of sleep, losing appetite, etc. She was on the go a lot, but she always said she was not athletic, and she didn't really like being asked too much about her beauty secrets because she's like, okay, it's more than that. We're people. Stop trying to make it seem like, you know.
I don't actually work out. I don't actually do anything. I would like to do stuff, but I'm very unathletic, so it's very hard for me to make myself go out there and work out or run or whatever. People always ask us the same questions and always want to see, what's it like to be a top model? What are your beauty tips? And I think people should see, the people that we are, not just the outside.
For someone so beautiful and successful in an industry that surrounds beauty, it's all about beauty, Yasmeen never thought she was beautiful growing up and called herself an ugly duckling. She believed she had the biggest glow up, right? And though her confidence increased with working in the modeling industry, I believe questions like beauty secrets and etc. annoy her because she still, at that time, of course, I don't know for now because she hasn't given any recent interviews or anything like that, but at that time she still was probably still going through some of the things that she went through as a young child. But then also in the industry, she also dealt with a lot of, biasness, racism from the industry. In the beginning, the industry didn't really know what to do with Yasmeen because her look was too ethnic, so she wouldn't get bookings. She had to have perseverance and work harder than her peers who didn't have an ethnic look just to get half of their fame. That she always thought she was white until she got into the industry and it was just like, you're ethnic, you're exotic. And she's like, well, okay. So she never knew how to describe herself. There was always confusion with that. So, I don't know.
I'm 20 years old. I was born in Canada, and I'm half Indian and half German. I don't understand why I'm doing well, and I don't know what I look like. I always thought I was white, but now apparently I'm exotic, so I couldn't even describe myself.
Being ethnic, like when I started in Montreal, I didn't really work. Nobody understood my look. It was too ethnic.
Yasmeen credits her perseverance to her solid upbringing. Years later, barriers still exist.
It's still for an ethnic look, it's kind of difficult, like to get a contract, a cosmetic contract.
She didn't only deal with racism from the industry, but also from her schools growing up. So the industry was just one big trigger probably for her, especially with the competition and the cattiness behind the scenes and all of that. I can only imagine if you had that type of childhood, how that would be pretty triggering. Yasmeen was known in the industry for being serious and business oriented. She also was known for her intelligence as well, despite it all. Her her agency, etc., they always described her as a very professional woman that took her job very seriously, and she was able to make demands like $5,000 a day because she was a businesswoman who was about her money.
If you want to compare beauty to brains, she's an ugly girl compared to her brains. She's a very business-oriented person. She comes across that way, and sometimes it's misinterpreted. But for her, she is, Yasmeen Inc.
The president of Yasmeen's modeling agency agrees.
She really has so much substance behind her beauty. And I think a lot of Yasmeen's beauty comes from the inside as opposed to only from the outside.
As far as where she is now, she stated in an interview from the 90s that she never wanted to be sucked in by the industry and never hoped to, change. As of now, her hopes has not gone to waste because she always described a sense of freedom that she wants to just be able to walk away from the industry. She has been able to do that. She maintained a low profile for about 25 years.
I don't want to be sucked in by the business. I want to be exactly who I am. I hope to stay exactly the same because I see a lot of that, and hopefully I still am. But yeah, I don't want to change. The success, it doesn't have to change your personality. That's greed. So hopefully I'll stay the way I am.
But in 2022, she made a rare public appearance and reconnected with supermodel friend Helena Christensen, ending her long silence. And Ghauri created an Instagram account, but mostly uses it to post throwback photos from her modeling career and has always prioritized her privacy, avoiding the typical celebrity lifestyle and staying away from parties and scandal. She hates attention in general and doesn't wear makeup when she goes out or do too much to avoid attention on her.
I never put on makeup when I go out. I don't really like to dress up. extravagantly because I don't want people to look at me. And in fact, I'd rather dress really ugly. It makes me feel really good.
Yasmeen doesn't like to call attention to herself away from the camera either.
I like to go home and put on jeans and look like crap.
She said that. I can imagine getting a lot of attention for your beauty, that she said she felt comfortable just not looking her best in the streets. She didn't want to be recognized. She didn't want people in her face, so she wouldn't be too dolled up. She'll wear baggy clothes, her glasses, etc., and just wouldn't do the most. There's been a resurgence of the 90s type of classic beauty. I even like the French rolls, the hairstyles coming back, etc., because I'm not a fan of the 2000s, early 2000s. I'm not a fan of fashion these days. There's no glamour or spark even in Hollywood. Everybody just looks rough and ungroomed. I'm not a fan. So I think that's one of the reasons why the 90s supermodel since 2020 have been making a resurgence. People from even the nanny Fran Drescher type of fashion. I just did a video for Fran Drescher as well. Those looks, the hairstyles, everything's making a comeback because people put a lot more effort back then and they look just more groomed, more polished, aesthetic, glamour. And Yasmeen has a very serious but mysterious, calm, grounded demeanor and elegance. And she just, when she comes into a room, she looks like she's just here to do what she do and she want to be out, okay? And who knows, maybe it's her upbringing that led her to be with that demeanor, but it really worked out for her. So it's more than just the clothes and the runway why I think people are very attracted to her versus a couple of the models from the 90s that were a little bit more popular, that were top ranking, like a Claudia Schiffer, etc. She just had something behind the eyes, the walk, the way she carried herself, her story, her being is like, though she was exposed, she was still reserved. I don't know if I'm describing that right. She was still reversed, though she was exposed. But to her, in her mind, and this is a question I'll ask you guys in the comments, being that, she did still believe in being conservative and being more reserved, and she said that her upbringing is one of the reasons why she stayed reserved and remained more conservative in that industry. It reminds me of Adriana Lima, if you haven't seen my Adriana Lima video, but her remaining conservative is part of her upbringing. Can you be in an industry like this where you're very, very exposed and still be labeled or considered conservative? Is that a thing? Can that be both true? I don't understand. Would a truly conservative person be able to expose himself that much in every sense of the word? Because there are some, of course, I can't post on YouTube on the slideshow photos that she was bare at the top, etc. And can we still call that conservative, or because it's photographed in a classier way and not, as you would say, trashy as like a fans only, if you catch my drift, type of model? Can we still consider it classy if it's the same thing? I don't know. I saw a lot of those comments under the videos with interviews where she was talking about her upbringing and her father's faith and etc. I saw a lot of the comments and Muslims that were under the comments that were kind of going in on her, where I was like, well, I do kind of agree with some of their statements where they're like, hey, stop trying to portray her as this conservative, very classy woman just because of her demeanor. She's still doing the same thing as other people. The only difference is models were, which is an interesting conversation. Sound off in the comments. Models were just higher end during that time, a lot of them. I'm not speaking for Yasmeen, of course, but we've done enough breakdowns and heard from models themselves that speak about how models were just higher end people that could be hired, because I got to filter myself, for the night. They could be hired for the night. A lot of men, high value, quote unquote men that were super wealthy, will come to these shows and just see which one they wanted, and they would hire them. These agencies used to literally sell these girls. That is a thing throughout the years, but because models and agencies portrayed models in such a classy light, and it was more business, and in that light, it just is a classier or higher end version of like Fins Only, where what you're selling is beyond just the clothes. It's yourself in the clothes, because it's three faces to modeling. It's, yes, the business of selling clothes, the business of selling the model, meaning career-wise, if they want to get whatever endeavors, etc., but the business of also selling yourself to the highest bidder for many models, not all, but many. So can it be considered a classy industry with that dark underbelly? And even if you're a model, especially in the 90s, that didn't participate in this type of lifestyle because everyone else around you was, you'd always be kind of grouped in with it. And that's where you'll suffer some of the harassment that was going on that Kimora Lee Simmons was talking about. And, you know, like Kate Moss, etc., they were talking about, because men wouldn't respect you because of the other models that make it so easy. They just would always assume that it's that easy. And a lot of these models kept their stories secret. Many of them still hasn't spoken out. But, oh, would it be a thing if a lot of these 90s models just decided to speak out? So comment below. I'm curious to see you guys' opinion. That's one discussion. Be open-minded and respectful in the comments. Would you consider modeling classy, or it's just the same thing? It's just the women are wearing more expensive clothes and they have real professionals doing their makeup and hair to prop them up classy. Comment below your thoughts on that. But this is what we have for Yasmeen Ghauri, and she is a very, very beautiful, one of the most popular right now, and just keep having a resurgence. Every now and then since 2020, she'll just have a resurgence. She'll just be popping up everywhere, and new fans are discovering her and fashion, etc., trying to recreate her makeup looks, etc. So she's just one of those that's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. I love you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you in the next one.